Hello and welcome to Reaching the Summit on Business RadioX. We are broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio in the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. I am Don Conklin, along with Teresa Conklin, and every month on Reaching the Summit, you will meet successful business leaders who have climbed the mountain and reached the summit in their profession. We will talk to them about their journey, the challenges they faced, and the lessons and insights they have learned along the way. Reaching the Summit is presented by Pinnacle Custom Signs. Get a more elevated look with your business signage. Visit pinnaclecustomsigns.com. Our guests today are Jim Tardif with Signs of Significance and Tom Kohberger with Comfort Control. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Don and Teresa.
Thank you, Don.
Sure.
Teresa.
So, Tom, talk to us a little bit about Comfort Control, what you do, how you start it, and just kind of give us the thumbnail about what's going on with Comfort Control from that standpoint.
Well, I started back in 1992, so I'm in business about 28 years now, and basically started it out of the basement of my home. It was just me and my dad. My dad was retired at the time, and he was living in Florida. And I said, "Hey, Dad, I want to start my own company. You want to give me a hand?" And he said, "Sure." My mother was happy because she didn't like it in Florida. So he moved to Georgia, helped me start the company, and 28 years later, we're still going strong.
Yeah. So why heating and air when you started up?
Well, I went to high school in New Jersey it was actually a trade school. So I knew I wasn't college material, so I decided, actually my dad kind of talked me into it. He says, "If you're not going to go to college, son, you probably ought to learn a trade." So I went to a high school that had trade in it. So in the morning we did our academic stuff, and in the afternoon it was trade. We learned heating and air and refrigeration during the afternoon. So I was in school from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way to 4:30. I didn't get home till dark when all the other kids were home at 2 o'clock.
Well, it did get dark in New Jersey very early because I grew up there, so
yeah,
I know that.
In the wintertime.
In the wintertime, it gets dark at 4 o'clock, I
Yeah.
think. So, well, that's great, and that's also, we'll talk about it in a little bit here, but from, what can kids do with their lives and things like that? College is great, but it's not the end all for 100% of children and kids out there. So,
Right.
So, Jim, can you tell us how you got into the sign business?
Yeah, I sure can. So I spent 30 years with General Electric and was downsized out of that role. I joined another company in Atlanta called N3 as their global sales director, and did that for about 3 years and found that it really wasn't a great fit for me. So I left, and about the same time my son Christian was graduating from college with a degree in advertising. So he and I decided we'd try and do something together. So we looked around and found the Sign World model for sign shops, and we dove in. So, yeah, we started 5.5 years ago.
Sounds a lot like our story, too, because our son Matthew was graduating from college at about the same time we decided to start our business.
Maybe from the same college.
Who knows?
It wasn't the school of hard knocks, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So it's it's interesting. Today is about a year, or close to a year, from the let's flatten the curve for 15 days, right? So we all have lived the past 12 months as business owners, and we hear stories, in the press and things like that about how tough it really is out there and how really tough it is on small businesses. And since the three of us all own small businesses, I'd like to get, Tom, starting with you, what's your take on what happened to Comfort Control during the pandemic, and where do you find yourself here 12 months later?
Yeah, it was tough because in March when it hit and when the word got out, our customers didn't want us in their homes. I mean, they just didn't want us to come out at all. We had over 2,000 maintenance customers to get to service their systems, and they just didn't want us to come out. So we were I was scared to death about that. But a couple of weeks into that, we kind of convinced them that we sent out an email blast and a text blast and said, look, we're going to have protective clothing on, we're going to have gloves, we're going to have masks, we're going to put something down on your floor to put the tool bag on. We've got Lysol wipes. We're going to be very, very careful and clean. And they started slowly allowing us to come into the home.
So it was kind of hard to find Lysol at that point.
It was very hard to find Lysol.
Lysol, hand sanitizer,
Yes.
anything that
Paper towels.
Yes.
Yeah. Luckily, I had an account with Home Depot, stuff that you can't buy in the store online, and I was able to get it that way.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're fortunate because I struggled with that
It was tough.
a lot.
Yeah.
So between that and toilet paper, right? I mean, it's amazing. It still amazes me that toilet paper was the one thing. You know, when we have snowstorms, it's bread and milk, not toilet paper.
Right.
But hey, who knows, right?
knows?
So Tom, now that we're 12 months in, I mean, have you seen your business come back to what you would call normal, or what changes have you made, and how do you see 2021 shaping up based upon everything that you can read in the tea leaves right now?
Yeah, it has come back normal. We have very few customers now that won't allow us in the home. We've caught up on all the maintenance. So yeah, it's a complete turnaround right now. Everybody's feeling a little more comfortable now that the vaccine is out. I think it's going to get progressively better.
That's great. How about you, Jim? How did the pandemic affect your business?
Yeah, it's very interesting. We had, in 2019, we had the best year we had ever had. And coming into 2020, I was looking to obviously continue that momentum and keep growing. I had just hired a new salesperson. In January hit, and it was like somebody had hit the brakes. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, started making me nervous. I had just invested in additional resources. And then slowly but surely word started trickling out about this COVID thing coming out of China. And it really hit our business hard. We had a couple of projects stall. Mm-hmm. We had a couple canceled out of our pipeline. I ended up furloughing my team. I didn't shut the business down. I kept coming to work every day. And it was important to me to make sure that the marketplace knew that Signs of Significance was still open. We had not shut down. We were supporting the essential businesses with the COVID signage and that sort of thing. So I wanted to make sure that we were still out there and available to help. Once the governor opened the state back up, it came flooding right back to us. So we finished 2020, the last 6 months were the best 6-month stretch we had ever had from a revenue perspective, and we're off to a heck of a start this year as well. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah.
Well, you know, it is interesting because from our standpoint, what we saw was very similar, right? We had good January and February, but then the bottom dropped out, right? And, you know, the good news for us, we were able to get a PPP loan. I don't know about you guys, but
Yes.
we did that. And so the biggest issue we had was our employees were just totally freaked out. They really didn't know day to day what was going to happen. You know, we had so many rumors out there. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You know, they're going to close everything down. You know, it's, you know, you'd have to have. I was working on a Fulton County project. And I even got letters from Fulton County saying I could actually be out working on the signs. They actually issued those so that if anybody stopped me, I can show them paperwork that I was allowed to be out. So it was kind of touch and go at that point in time, really interesting. We actually, after we got the PPP loan, we said, you know what? You guys are all freaked out. You're all over the place. Go home. So we sent them home for the week before Easter, paid them, and said, listen, this is the time to decompress, to really get your heads together, come back in. And they came back in the Monday after Easter, and ever since then we've been kind of back on track. But, you know, it's interesting how it's all played out. I guess the other question I got to ask you, has COVID itself entered your workplace, and how has it affected your workforce from a COVID standpoint? So, Tom, what about you?
We only had 1 or 2 employees get it. And they just, you know, we sent them home. They were home for a week or 2 and came back and everything was fine. So we didn't really have a big breakout at the office at all.
For us, everybody in my business except for me has had it. So
Wow.
yeah. Now my designer had it really before anybody knew what it was, and you know, we caught wind of what it was while he was home sick with it. Then my wife and my son both got it at the same time. So I was actually living in a house with 2 people with COVID for their quarantine period. My son has an apartment down in the city, but he moved home to quarantine with his mom. So somehow or another, I've been able to avoid it.
Wow. Yeah, we've been very fortunate because nobody in our shop has had it. We've had people that were exposed to it, had relatives that had it. And in those instances, we'd send them home for them to quarantine just so that they wouldn't infect the rest of the team.
Yep.
But knock on wood, we haven't had anybody get it.
Yeah. And we have seen, some, on the fringe, but, it's. I think it's going to play itself out. I think we see a lot of the collapsing of the infection rate and and like I said, the vaccine and things like that. So, with any luck, by the end of this year, we'll get back to what maybe or might be normal. Maybe we don't have to wear masks or anything like that.
Right.
So, but there's an interesting dynamic that I think all three companies have, and that is family business. And I know, Tom, you started with your dad and you had your son in the business. You have Christian in the business. I know that, Jim, and as you know, that we have 2 sons in the business.
Right.
So Teresa, how is it working with your sons in the business? And
you had to ask me.
And your husband, who's been known to be a tyrant at
Again,
times.
You had to ask me. Now, working with families is definitely an interesting dynamic because you have both the family relationship and the work relationship. And a lot of times, I think, at least for our family, we have a tough time separating them or keeping them distinctly separate. One always seems to bleed into the other. When we spend a weekend with one of the kids, we'll wind up talking about work, or, things about work will come home. And so that's been a challenge for us. How about for you?
What about working with your husband?
She skipped that part.
Conveniently, she did. I noticed
strategically.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first strategic thing I ever did. Working with Don has been interesting because we've always worked well together. We met in college. We got the same degree in college, so we learned to work together then, and we've always seemed to have skill sets that mirror one another. Where I'm strong, he's not, and vice versa. And I think once we started getting the business going and understanding how to run the business, our roles naturally separated to the point where he has his responsibilities and I have mine, and then where we need to touch, and we try to stay in lockstep with one another as much as possible.
Yeah, I think defining what's your responsibility versus the other person's responsibility is huge, because there's a tendency to want to help. There's a tendency to step on toes and things like that. But I hate minutia. I hate details and all that other stuff. And Teresa's great at that. I'll say, hey, you know what? We're going to do this, and she'll say, wait, have you thought through that? I was like, not really, but it sounds cool. Let's go do that. Come on.
Yep.
Right? So
I think that's a guy thing.
It's a guy thing, So, but working with our sons has been really interesting. As you said with Christian, is that we started the company because of Matthew. Matthew, once he got a 2-year degree, he did not want to work in an office. He said, Dad, what can we do? And I was going to go ahead and just start a one-man company for him to run himself. I'd be a silent investor, keep my corporate job, yada, 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 everything, be happy. Couldn't find one of those unless he wanted to be a mobile pet groomer.
No. Which
was he didn't want to tie down dogs in an RV, right? So we started this, and but 10 years in, so we're 10 years, believe it or not. And it's like they had matured. They were both 22 when they started the business. So one's 32, one's 30 now. And it's kind of interesting because we're at a point in our lives that we do want to retire. We do want to get out of here, right? And so it's very interesting. Do they take it from us? Do they run it for us? Do we sit on the board of directors and watch over them and not, like bite our hands off by watching them do it?
Do you sell it to them?
Do you sell it to them? Do I sell it to someone? I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities out there, but in their 30 and 32-year-old minds, it's my company when mom and dad leave. So that's kind of a thing to work through. So what's your experience working with Jean and Christian? Because I know your wife's involved too, right?
Well, she is. She's an officer, but she's she actually has her own business. So from a day-to-day perspective, she's not in it, Teresa, like you are. But my experience with Christian's been very rewarding. I struggle with that separation of dad and employee or boss. So I remember when we first decided to start the business, I didn't want him to come straight to work out of college for dad. So my strategy was, Christian, go get a job and where you can learn the responsibilities of having to get up and do your job. And when I can afford to hire you for a salary that you're able to earn on your own, then we'll bring you over. So we did that, and he started with us almost exactly a year later. He actually started on my birthday the following year, and it's been great ever since. I remember when we first started, I brought him to one of the open networking events that I went to, and I said, what I want you to do is just go start talking to people. You're a personable guy. Just go start talking to people and get to know them, and spread the word about signs of significance. He goes, I'd really rather just hang with you and see what you do and see how you do it. And so he was, unsure of himself, right? His confidence level wasn't anywhere near where it is today. But watching him grow over the last 4 years that he's been part of the team has just been one of the most rewarding things for me. Now I can I can listen to him when he's in his office from my office, talking to clients, and he can talk them right through the whole process. So that's been a very rewarding part of it for me.
And Tom, what about you from a family involvement standpoint? What's your experience been?
For me, it was rough. Me and my dad butted heads a lot. It was good in the beginning, and then it just got bad. We both have strong minds, and I was the guy that knew the business. He didn't know anything about the business, but he really loved me and wanted to help. But a lot of times it was just we just butted heads. My brother, at a short period of time, my brother was working. He was answering the phones. My mom was answering phones, and then when my son grew up, he was helping. My son helped a lot. My son put all the processes in place. He was the computer guy. He got us signed up on a software called Service Titan. Put all the processes in place. Everything's automated. If somebody sells something, it pops up we use Slack. It pops up, okay, this job was sold on Slack. Now it's time to order the equipment, schedule the job. It's all automated. I don't know how he did it. It's just amazing to me. But he put all of our processes in this software called Suite Process. If you ever want to know how to do anything in the company, just look it up. He's just amazed me with that stuff. It was amazing. But he was so good at that the software company Service Titan hired him, took him away from me. So, but I'm very happy for him. He's doing really well there, and that's his niche. So he really didn't want to take over the company. That was my original plan, but he's doing so well with Service Titan. I'm just really happy for him.
So what makes Comfort Control different from other heating and air companies?
Well, it's tough because there's so many heating and air companies. You have to have a niche. You have to do something different. And what we do is I train all of my guys to look for a wow factor. We call it a wow factor. So we're in the home, we're doing our normal service, we're doing what we're there for, and then we'll look for something that's completely unrelated to heating and air. Maybe they have a door knob that's loose, or the flapper on the toilet's leaking, or whatever. Just something small. The screen is hanging off, or the garbage needs to be picked up. We'll do that, and we'll say at the end of the call, by the way, I fixed that loose door for you. It's just like, wow, really? And we don't charge them anything for it, obviously. And the customers are just blown away by that.
I like that. Very different. And what about for signs of significance?
We try to model ourselves after Pinnacle Signs and Graphics. That's our differentiator. But
we're Pinnacle Custom Signs.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But when probably you guys went through the same due diligence process as we did, and one of the things that we found was response time in our industry tends to be poor. So that was right from the start. One of our goals is to be very, very responsive to our customers, so differentiate ourselves that way. And I was very fortunate to hire my designer, Kevin Dean, when we started. And Kevin has a great ability to sit down with a client and have a design consultation with them and hear what their visions are and be able to translate that into something very unique that he can show them. We get a lot of very positive feedback from our clients in that respect. So I think those two areas are probably our two biggest differentiators, just getting back to people on time. I think people aren't expecting that.
Right.
So we're exceeding expectations there, and then the designs that we're able to present to them.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that signage is really a contractor business. And if you ever had a contractor work on your home, they're always on time, on budget, and always status you. Yeah. So, one thing that always interests me about small businesses is, how they came about their name. Obviously, you're not Jim Signs or Tom's Heating and Air. So where did Signs of Significance come from? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, it was kind of fun when we first decided we were going to get into the sign business. We knew we had to come up with a name, so my wife Jean and Christian and I would sit around just kind of brainstorming. And I had it in my head that I wanted the word sign in my business. So when we came up with Signs of Significance, we got it twice, right? We got signs, and then the word significance, the word sign is there, and we highlight that in the coloring of the fonts.
I was just noticing that on your name tag.
Right. So it's Signs of Signs, kind of. It seems to have worked for us.
Well, there you go. What about comfort control, Tom?
So comfort control, okay. I wanted something that had to do with the air conditioning, obviously, but the main reason I chose comfort control is because back in the day, in '92, all we had was the phone book. I wanted to be up to the top, so the C was closest to the A's I could get because all the A's and B's were taken. So I got comfort control.
Oh gosh, yeah, you couldn't be AAA Heating and Air.
Yeah, I tried that. They said no, you really shouldn't do that.
So. Yeah, but I like how you've made your logo where the O's are like the dials for your heating and air. I love those. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
So, and what about Pinnacle Custom Signs?
Why don't you tell our story?
Our story?
Yeah.
Okay, Pinnacle Custom Signs, interestingly enough, is two things. First of all, before we opened a business, we used to do things like golf, ski, right? Before we opened the business. And we used to go out to the Rockies or over to Sierra Nevadas every year. Used to go skiing with the kids, skiing with ourselves, go see friends. And if you've ever been out west, you know how breathtaking the western mountains are compared to the eastern hills. We call them, we're going to go to the mountains in North Carolina, which are about the foothill. They're not even as tall as Denver is, right? So, and we're like, okay, so that's really cool. It's mountains. And then we said pinnacle, right? It's like, so we want to have our customers reach the top of what they're doing. So it's kind of a double thing of pinnacle. And then we intentionally put the word custom in there. And, Teresa's name is, if you spell Teresa, there's two names spelled Teresa. When you spell her name wrong, she gets really upset with that, okay? When you call me Pinnacle Signs, I get really upset with that because Pinnacle Custom Signs means we do things custom for the customer, right? We're not doing 1,000-yard signs, and we're not cranking stuff out like some of our competitors might, but we're really a consultative sale to the customer. So it's funny because we had a couple of names before we decided on that one. And
one was Pinnacle Sign Solutions, and then we came up with Pinnacle Custom Signs. And I have one son that continues to call our business Pinnacle Custom Sign Solutions, which is kind of cool, but to me it's too wordy.
It's too long.
Yeah.
And he does it to get on our nerves. It's what he
doesn't
really
get on mine.
Does, so.
Well, I'm really glad you told me that because I've never called you Pinnacle Custom Signs.
I know that.
Now I will.
So, and we're not Pinnacle Signs and Graphics. There actually is a Pinnacle Signs and Graphics in Colorado.
Is that right?
As part of Sign World.
As part of Sign World. So
when we purchased Apex Signs and Graphics, talking with Dave Coulter, he said, "What are you going to do about the name of your company now?" He goes, I really would recommend that you go with Apex because it starts with an A. I said, well, we're not doing Yellow Pages anymore. So it's more of a Google search issue. And I don't think the A is as significant.
There you go.
See what I did there?
Yeah, significant.
As it was back in the Yellow Pages.
I do have a good friend of mine. You know him, George Beitner, who was in San Diego, who's in the sign business. Same thing about the phone book. He started in 98 or something like that, before the internet, right?
Yep.
And he called his company All Star Signs. He says that was great, except for I didn't realize what the acronym really would mean. So yeah, we have a little fun with that when we get together, right? So what's the future for signs of significance? What's your future? I mean, you see 3-5 years from now, where's Jim? Where's the family? Where's the company? You've got to have thought about that from that standpoint. So where do you see y'all going?
Much like you, when I get into this with Christian, the ultimate goal was to be able to transition the business to Christian. How we do that is still up in the air. But I think he's still on board with that, and I'm still on board with that. So ultimately, we want to do that. How long I stay around, I don't know, another 5+ years. I really haven't given, drawn
still having too much fun, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, it's great fun. It actually is quite fun. But so down the road, we're going to be moving to a bigger space. We're going to continue to keep our eye on growth and making investments in the business to give us greater in-house capabilities. But it's really continue to drive the momentum that we've rebuilt now that we've rebounded from COVID and continue to grow.
So what would you say your service area is? I know you probably service nationally, but where's the majority of your customers?
It's North Fulton and a little bit above that into South Forsyth for the most part.
Gotcha. And Tom, what about future for Comfort Control?
Well, like I said, I've been doing this for 28 years, so I got about 3 years left in me. I'm not going to retire 100%. I decided to let my managers run it, so they're in training now to run the business. This way I can continue to get my paycheck and maybe, travel, go to Florida when the pandemic's over and kind of have some fun that way. But, yeah, the original plan was to sell, but I think I'm past that.
Gotcha. Well, Teresa, what about you? What's Pinnacle going to do? I'm dying to know what Pinnacle Custom Signs is going to do.
We still don't know. All we know is we're leaving in 3 years. So
we are leaving. Our plan, and we started last year. Our plan was to travel 2 months of the year. So you know how that worked out last year, right?
Yeah. Not doing much better this year.
Well, maybe eventually we'll be doing better this year. So Tom, as far as the marketplace is concerned today, what kind of specials do you have going on with Comfort Control with our customers?
Heating and air systems, the number one killer to a heating and air system is dirt. That's the number one cause of a service call, breakdown is dirt. So if you have to have the system maintained twice a year, an 1/8 of an inch dirt on the blower wheel would cause a 30% loss in capacity and efficiency, just 1/8 of an inch. If the blower wheel is dirty, that means the cooling coil is dirty. There's another 30 or 40% loss. So people don't realize they're overpaying of their utility bills because the system's dirty. So right now we're offering a $39 tune-up special, and we're going to check the heating system and the air conditioning system all at the same time.
Oh, great. And so we'll talk about contact in a minute. So, and Jim, I mean, Signs is custom, right? Are you running any specials, or what's going on from that standpoint?
It's interesting. I belong to the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce, and on their website, every member has a profile, and they always say you should put hot deals on there. And I've yet to be able to come up with some kind of a hot deal with a custom sign business.
Yeah, because we always say that signs are event-driven. There's usually some need that's come up that requires you to have a sign.
Right.
It's not something that you buy often.
And it's not a stockable item.
Right.
Like I can run a special on this service or this product. Everything is very unique.
Yeah.
Every opportunity is a Rembrandt, right? We start from scratch and build to the client's expectations.
Yeah.
So how's competition in your area? That was what I would ask. So I mean, do you find yourselves competing significantly with a lot of other sign companies in your area? Do you find yourselves fighting for deals? What's the competitive environment for signs over in the Alfredo Roswell area?
Yeah, we do have a lot of competition. I don't very often find that the deals that we're working on are competitively viewed. I'm not sure what the right way to say that is, but we've built a clientele base that's very important to us, so we work hard to maintain those relationships, so we have that incumbent position.
Right.
And on new opportunities, it gets back to what we were talking about earlier with response time. If we can be as responsive as we attempt to be and try to be for our clients, many times we've already closed the deal before the next guy, if there is another guy, before the next guy even comes into the picture. So I think the strategy is working for us that way, just to deliver a level of service that's exceeding the customer's expectations, and we don't find ourselves competing, especially on price. We're always competing on value, but we don't very often find ourselves competing on price.
Well, great. Now, Tom's in the same business park as I am, and there's only about, 7 heating and air companies in our office park?
At least 7 in there, yeah.
So, from a competition standpoint, how do you see the competition, and how do you guys kind of differentiate yourself out there where Comfort Control is the choice for customers?
It's really, really tough when you have so much competition out there, and you got a lot of the small guys that one-man operations and that, giving their services away because they feel like they don't have the overhead, so they can do that, and it's probably true. They don't realize that they could get more for their services, but it's like you guys said, it's value. You have to promote value. You have to show the customer that you're going to go above and beyond what their expectations are, and just give them a great value for their money. It's the only way you can do it.
Gotcha. And where do you see your major service area, Tom?
We do mostly Gwinnett County, North Fulton, Forsyth. We don't go into the city. We used to go into the city, but the drive time now it's too much. It's crazy. Yeah. So we're staying pretty local. Maybe about a 30 to 40 mile radius.
Do you go as far north as Gainesville or no?
We do. Yeah. Actually, I bought a small company that was based in Gainesville. AC Solutions was the name of it. So we bought them out in 2017. A very small company, but they all their work was in Gainesville.
Gotcha. Which is still it's growing. South Hall is really growing at this point in time.
Absolutely.
As we know. So, I guess from a economic environment that we find ourselves in today, I mean, what do you see? What do you see from an economic activity in your markets, around your businesses with the people that you network with? I mean, what's your crystal ball say from an economic environment for 2021 for the Atlanta and the North Atlanta metro? Tom, what do you think?
I think it's improving. I really do. We're seeing an increase in customers that are willing to pay for the larger or more efficient systems. I think it's coming around.
Gotcha. What about you, Tim? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm, I guess, bullish on it. There's still a level of uncertainty that keeps me a little nervous and keeps me focused. But we're continuing to invest in the business, and we're planning to keep our growth curve accelerating, and I think the economy will support that.
Yeah, from what I see from an economic standpoint, I think there is a ton of uncertainty in the business, in the economy. I think people are spending money that they would have spent anyhow. What I call normal baseline business. I got a vehicle, I'm putting graphics on it. I bought a building, I'm putting graphics on it. But I think what we see is there's not a lot of capex being spent right now. We do a lot of refurbishments of like shopping centers and monument signs and shopping centers and things like that. And the real estate companies, the the management companies, they're just not ready to pull the trigger right now. I think there's my investment advisor from Edward Jones told me the other day. He says, Don, there is more cash sitting on the sidelines today than there ever has been, which is great if they ever decide to spend the cash, right? So I guess we got to get through the uncertain economic times. And I mean, it's with any new administration, we all know this. People are trying to figure out and read the tea leaves and see what's happening with the administration. We know what's going on right now, and eventually the new normal or whatever it is will sink in, and people will understand where a good investment is, where a good investment might not be, where to shy away from it. And I think that's what people are figuring out now. What I can't seem to understand is, with the uncertainty, how the stock market is at record highs, right? It's like, who's driving that? Maybe it's GameStop. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for our business, the sign and graphics business, businesses need to continue, and people are, in my opinion, continuing to invest in the promotion of their business, which fits our model very, very well.
Right.
And unfortunately, some are shutting down, and that's still an opportunity for us. Yeah. It's not as great an opportunity as building a new sign, but when we've got to take some down, we can help them out with that as well.
Yeah, Tom, tell us a little about the advertising you've done. We were talking a little about that before the show.
Yeah, so I do a lot of postcards right now. Nobody's doing direct mail anymore. I've put a lot of money into pay-per-click and online, and just the returns aren't there. I mean, in order to do well in pay-per-click, you have to spend a lot of money. I mean, I was spending $6,000 a month on pay-per-click, and they were telling me I needed to spend more because the cost per click is high because of so many people fighting for that number one spot.
Right.
So I decided just to trash that altogether and just go to postcards, because now I can brand myself. I've got my brand on the postcard. It's going to the home. It's going to every. We're doing 30,000 homes a month. We're hitting the same homes over and over again, and we're just branding ourselves now.
Well, that helps keep you top of mind.
Top of mind,
right?
You know. And I have noticed that people are saving the cards because we don't put an expiration on a lot of it. They'll just stick it in the drawer, and when they need it, they pull it out and they have it.
You also do billboards, because we've seen a few around.
Yeah, the billboards, that's top of mind awareness too. There's you really can't gauge how well that does.
Right.
Even though there's a tracking number on there. That's the other thing. Your advertising is very hard to track, because as soon as they see an advertisement, they immediately go to Google and they Google you. So you don't know. They're not even going to use the tracking number where they saw you. So
right.
It's a tough one.
Okay.
Well, advertising's always been that way, right?
Yeah, always.
So you guys are two owners. You start the companies and things like that. So tell me a little bit about the culture that you've created. We talk about that. We're not talking about yogurt, right? we're talking about culture. So, Tom, at your company, I mean, do you have, does everybody know what the mission is, and do you have values? I mean, how do you instill culture into Comfort Control?
Yeah, so we have a big training room upstairs, and on the wall of the training room is all of our core values. They're all up there. We go over them, every time we're in a meeting. They know what the mission is of the company. So we do go over that. I was actually thinking about contacting you to make something to put in the truck, like a laminated little thing that we can stick on the bins, like the work bins, that has the core values on there, so they can see it every day. But yeah, we do games. We'll do contests. Who sells the most maintenance agreements? We'll give them. We actually gave away a Sony PlayStation. So the culture is, we try to make it a fun culture where it's not always nose to the grindstone, work. We have some fun as well.
Gotcha. And what about over at Signs of Significance?
When we started, I came from GE. At every meeting, and we had a ton of them at GE, we always started and ended the meeting with integrity. So that was burnt into my soul, and that's part of our mission statement. We lead with integrity. And then it gets back to the response time and the creativity. So we're a small team. We try to keep that family culture in it, where everybody gets along with each other. When I interview, everybody gets to talk to the person to make sure that they're going to be a good fit with the teams, because we want to maintain that kind of family attitude. We try to have fun. I try to be flexible with time when people need some time off or come in late or leave early. So everybody has that attitude about the business. I think it's important to everyone that the business does well. And from our clients' perspective, we try to do our best to exceed those expectations. And again, we do that, I think, with our creativity and our response times.
Yeah, over the years, we've felt like the culture of the place. Everybody, when somebody doesn't fit that culture, it's pretty apparent right away.
Yeah, and it can be detrimental to the whole business.
Yeah, so we try to focus on making sure people have the same core values that we have.
Now, do you guys hire based upon the core values? Do you sit down with someone and say, hey, these are our core values. Do you have them?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah. When I hired my first guy, right, in the Sign World model, they say you need a designer production guy, and they help you put that job description together. My feeling was, when I hired Kevin, I asked him to go to breakfast with myself and my wife, and I wanted to sit down to make sure that his personality and my personality, his work ethic and my work ethic would be able to mesh well.
Right.
Once I established that was going to be a good fit, that we could work together well, then I hooked him up with the technology person at Sign World to make sure that he had the technical capabilities that we needed. Because at that point, I wasn't able to make that evaluation on my own. But I always start with the person's integrity and work ethic and that sort of thing.
What about you, Tom? Do you kind of use the values to evaluate who you're going to hire? I know it's a tough industry to get good people.
It's tough. So what we do is we hire the person. I mean, I'm really not looking at the skills that they have and all that, because we can train them. In fact, I'd rather train them to do it our way anyhow. So we'll hire the personality, and if we think they're going to be a fit. And then when I hire somebody, it's always a trial basis. So it's a 30-day trial where you're hired, but you're not. We're going to try you out for 30 days, see if you like us, see if we like you. And if it works out, you'll be hired permanently. But we'll send them out in the truck with one of the guys, and the guys will do the training, and the guys will know right away if this guy's going to be able to make it or not. So my technicians will let me know if this guy's going to make it or not.
Yeah. Interesting for us. We have 5 core values. One is provide excellent customer service. The other one is have high quality, right? And the other 3 are kind of attitudinal, right? One is have a positive attitude, because I don't want to work with any Eeyores. I'd rather work with Tigers, right? The other one is have fun being part of a team. And the other one, which is interesting, is driven, right? Driven being always drive forward, right? And so we sit in an interview, and you talk about core values with someone. I said, these are our 5 core values. Do you have them, right? And they look at me and says, wait a minute, you're going to tell me yes and I get it, because you'd be stupid to say no, right? I said, but you got to think about this, because if you don't have one of those core values, they'll become very apparent very quickly. And then I say the one thing to every person that we hire that Teresa hates, and I say, if you do not have all the core values, you will be ejected like a virus. And guess what? They are ejected like a virus. And it's not just Don and Teresa, owners of the company, right? It's, as you said, Tom, it's the other employees, because they can feel it. You've created a culture there. Yeah. If someone, it's interesting, the last couple of people we've let go, and they've been on trial periods, right? We've let go. I sit around and I say, okay, why did we lose Joe? Tell me why Joe's not here. Well, he had no attention to detail. Couldn't do quality product. Oh, okay, gotcha. What about Susie? She wasn't driven. She was, she just clocked in, clocked out, took her hour lunch, didn't want to do anything more than what, so people all understand that. And it's not just me saying it or Teresa saying it or our boys saying it. It's the employees recognizing that they got someone that could potentially drag the team down. Yeah. And hell, if they want that to be happening, right at that point in time. So one question that I'm sure our listeners are probably going to ask is, Jim, you're a sign company. Pinnacle Custom Signs is a sign company. We could probably do the same things and serve the same customers and might be competitors. So why would I have you on the show?
Why would Don Conklin invite Jim Tardif?
Don and Teresa.
Don and Teresa.
That's okay.
I think we technically we're competitors, but we really work together in our marketplace. The fact that we both started through Sign World and we both are part of this Owners Alliance, in my eyes anyways, I look at us as business partners, if you will.
Right.
There are opportunities, and there's countless examples where you've done work for us. You need a quick site survey down in my territory, and you give me a call, and I'll run out and do that for you. So we support each other. I could probably count on one hand easily the amount of times I knowingly was competing against Pinnacle Custom Signs.
You lost every one of them, I'm sure.
Well, we'll keep. I won't admit to that.
I wouldn't if I were you either.
So,
but that's how I look at our relationship. Right. I look at us as more partners in the Atlanta sign industry.
And what I would say is this is the one reason why we went into the sign business, right? Is that everybody needs a sign, right? I mean, it's kind of interesting to say, but unless you're going out of business, you need even if you're going out of business, you need a going out of business sign, right? And I wrapped a vehicle going out of, interesting story. So I had a guy who had a jewelry store. He was in Toco Hills. So I wrapped it because he had no visibility at a storefront. He parked it on the street. He goes, Don, I'm going out of business. Can you take the wrap off and put a big yellow I'm going out of business wrap on it? I said, sure, I can do that. Wrapped it, put it on the street. Went out of business, called me up, goes, Don, I'm opening up a new store in Lawrenceville. Can you put the same wrap that I had 2 wraps ago back on the vehicle? So it's kind of interesting how it all comes out. So, and Tom, I know you have a lot of competition out there. I mean, but it's pretty cutthroat in the heating and air company. I mean, there's not a lot of cooperation. I don't see as much, or is there something that I don't see?
There is a lot, but there's plenty of really, really good companies, and the ones that take time to do the training, and better themselves are the ones that you really want to deal with.
So how do people find Signs of Significance if they want signs?
Our signsofsignificance.com website is one. We still have an Apex Signs and Graphics website out there from having purchased that business 4 years ago. You're going to see me personally in a lot of networking throughout North Fulton. So we get a lot of referrals that way. Those are probably the 2 biggest areas.
And your phone number?
My phone number is for the business is 678-379-5187.
Okay.
And it is signsofsignificance.com.
Okay, and Tom, the same for you?
Yeah, so we are comfortcontrolinc.com, and the phone number is 770-932-1306.
Are you guys also on social media?
We are. Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, and we're improving in our social media areas as well. That's part of our strategy.
It's tricky. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on Reaching the Summit, presented by Pinnacle Custom Signs. Get a more prominent look with your business signage. To see how we can help your business reach the summit, visit us on our website at pinnaclecustomsigns.com or on any of our social media channels. Remember that you can enjoy any of our episodes at any time by visiting businessradiox.com, selecting the Gwinnett Studio, and then click on Reaching the Summit. You can also find us on your favorite podcast apps, such as Apple's iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, for Pinnacle Custom Signs, I'm Teresa Conklin, and with Don Conklin, you've been listening to Reaching the Summit on Business Radio X. Hope you have a great day.